Have you ever felt that strange silence when you begin to shift, when you take your first steps away from the predictable patterns everyone is comfortable with? You mention a new idea, a new perspective, and suddenly the room feels heavier. People smile politely, but it's not encouragement. It's unease. They might laugh it off with a joke or mask their discomfort in advice that sounds more like doubt. What's really happening in those moments is not about you being wrong. It's about you being different. And difference is threatening. When you start thinking for yourself, you stop feeding the illusion of sameness that allows others to feel safe in their mediocrity. You stop nodding at conversations you no longer agree with. You start questioning traditions and values that were handed to you as if they were sacred. And with every step you take away from conformity, you shine an uncomfortable light on those still trapped within it. Without intending to, you reveal the gap between who they are and who they could be. That revelation unsettles them, and it makes them defensive. This is the first unspoken cost of growth. No one tells you that self-transformation isn't celebrated. It's resisted. You think your friends, your colleagues, even your family will applaud your evolution. Instead, you meet silence, distance, or subtle sabotage. Why? Because your evolution exposes their stagnation. The human instinct is to protect comfort, and your progress rips open the illusion that comfort is enough. Nietzsche understood this. He saw that the moment a mind begins to move toward strength, it shakes the foundations of everyone nearby. But here's the paradox. The discomfort you feel when others pull back from you is not a sign of failure. It is a sign that you are on the right path. Weak minds are not threatened by weakness. They are threatened by strength. They are not disturbed when you stay the same. They are disturbed when you begin to break free. And this disturbance is the beginning of something greater. Because to build a mind that terrifies, you must first walk through the fire of misunderstanding. You must accept that isolation is often the first companion of independence. You must let go of needing applause and prepare yourself for resistance. That resistance is the evidence that you are breaking the mold. It is proof that you are no longer living on autopilot. It is the first mark of danger, the danger of becoming someone who can no longer be controlled. If the first step of transformation unsettles the people around you, the second step unsettles you. Because as soon as you start breaking away from what is familiar, you feel the ground disappear beneath your feet. The values that once guided you no longer make sense. The habits that used to give you comfort now feel like chains. And in their place comes a heavy silence, a silence that feels like loneliness, but is in fact the raw space where something new can begin. Most people, when they reach this point, run back. They choose the false safety of conformity over the terror of freedom. But Nietzsche taught that it is here, in the heart of the void, that true strength is born. Not in the easy days, not in the moments of applause, but in the collision with chaos. He said, "You must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star." This was not metaphor. It was diagnosis. He was telling you that disorder is not a mistake. It is the raw material of greatness. Think about your own life. The times you grew the most were never the times when everything was smooth. They were the moments you were broken, uncertain, perhaps even humiliated. Those nights when sleep escaped you, when pain gnawed at you, when you doubted everything. Those were the crucibles where your mind began to harden, where you were forced to confront the reality that no one was coming to rescue you, where you learned that strength is not inherited, it is carved out of suffering. But here lies the danger. Chaos can destroy as easily as it can create. Many enter it, but few survive it. They drown in despair because they cling to the illusion that life should be easy, that comfort is proof of progress. Nietzsche strips that illusion away. He insists that suffering is not an error of existence, but its central law. The question is not whether you will suffer. It is whether you will use suffering as a weapon or allow it to crush you. To build a mind that terrifies others, you must change your relationship with pain. Stop begging for lighter burdens and start demanding stronger shoulders. Stop treating adversity as an enemy and start recognizing it as the most brutal but most honest teacher you will ever have. When others flee the storm, you must learn to walk into it. When others beg for stability, you must find your footing in the fall. This is the essence of transformation, not avoiding chaos, but shaping it until it shapes you back into something unbreakable. If chaos is the forge, then responsibility is the hammer. Nietzsche made this brutally clear in one of his most misunderstood proclamations. God is dead. To many, this sounded like blasphemy or triumph, but Nietzsche was not celebrating. He was warning. He was pointing to the collapse of every ready-made source of meaning, every external authority that once offered human beings comfort. What he declared dead was not the divine itself, but the illusion that someone else is holding the universe together on your behalf. And this is where the path to true strength takes its sharpest turn. Because once that illusion is gone, there is nowhere left to project your fear, your failure, or your responsibility. There is no higher plan to blame, no cosmic safety net to assure you that your suffering means something in some grand design. The weight falls squarely on your shoulders. Your life, your meaning, your choices are entirely your own. This is terrifying for most. When they sense the abyss of freedom, they recoil. They run back into belief systems that tell them what to think, what to do, how to live. They trade autonomy for security. But Nietzsche challenges you to resist that temptation, because within that abyss lies the possibility of a power so rare it unsettles everyone who encounters it. The power to create values from nothing, to live not by borrowed truths, but by laws you forge for yourself. This is what makes a strong mind dangerous. It no longer bends to the authority of tradition, crowd, or convention. It stops asking, "What is allowed?" and starts asking, "What is worthy of me?" It does not look upward for salvation. It looks inward for creation. And that shift is so radical, so absolute, that it destabilizes everyone still clinging to external authority. But here is the catch. This freedom is a double-edged sword. It will break you if you are not ready to carry it. To claim it means to accept that no one will ever come to save you. That your success, your failure, your despair, and your triumph rest on you alone. There is no longer anyone else to blame. That burden is crushing, but it is also liberating. Because once you stop waiting for meaning to be given to you, you discover something terrifying and magnificent. You are the meaning maker. And that is the seed of a mind so strong it terrifies others, not because it is violent, but because it is utterly free. If radical responsibility is the weight, then what emerges under that weight is the figure Nietzsche called the Übermensch, the overman. Too often misunderstood as a kind of superhuman, Nietzsche's vision was not of someone with mystical powers, but of a person who has broken free from the chains that bind ordinary lives: guilt, herd morality, the hunger for approval. The Übermensch does not ask for permission to exist. He does not wait for validation, applause, or reassurance. He lives by laws he creates for himself, even if they clash with the entire world. This is why his mind is unbreakable. It is not built on the shifting sands of others' expectations. It is built on an inner foundation, a will to power that feeds on its own strength. Think of the difference this creates. Most people move through life as mirrors, reflecting back what society tells them to be, echoing the beliefs they were taught, fitting into molds carved by others. The Übermensch, by contrast, is not a mirror, but a creator. He does not ask, "What will others think?" He asks, "What will I build?" He does not adapt to the world's meaning. He imposes meaning on the world. But this path comes with sacrifice. To reach it, you must first kill within yourself the craving for approval, the desire to belong at any cost, the comfort of being normal. You must face the pain of isolation, of rejection, of carrying an identity that may never be celebrated by the crowd. Most people cannot bear this. They retreat into obedience, back to ready-made dogmas that tell them who they are. Nietzsche himself was mocked, isolated, dismissed as mad. Yet it was in that solitude that he glimpsed the possibility of freedom, the freedom to live as a creator, not a follower. And this is what terrifies others about such a mind. It is not arrogance, nor coldness, nor indifference. It is the refusal to be owned, the refusal to submit to the tribe. The Übermensch embodies the terrifying possibility of a human being who exists without external chains, who rises above herd morality and dares to live authentically, even if the price is solitude. To build such a mind is not an easy task. It is the most brutal and transformative process you can undertake. It requires burning away everything that is not yours, everything imposed by a culture that rewards obedience and punishes strength. But what emerges from that fire is something rare, a human being whose very presence unsettles the weak because it confronts them with the mirror of their own unfulfilled potential. The deeper you walk into this path, the clearer one truth becomes. The stronger you become, the lonelier you feel. Not because you choose isolation for its own sake, but because the world no longer knows what to do with you. When you stop needing validation, when you stop obeying invisible rules, when you stop living to mirror others, you create a silence around you. And in that silence, most people feel uncomfortable. Nietzsche called this the tragedy and the privilege of the free spirit. The individual who dares to break from herd morality is always met with suspicion, hostility, or pity. The herd cannot understand freedom. It only understands conformity. And so, as your mind strengthens, you begin to drift away from the circle of approval you once depended on. Friends fall away, opportunities close. People whisper that you are arrogant, cold, or strange. But the truth is simpler. They can no longer domesticate you. This solitude is not a punishment. It is the battlefield where the self is finally forged. Only in the silence of withdrawal can you hear your own voice without distortion. Only when you are stripped of applause, stripped of guidance, stripped of safety nets, do you confront the raw reality of who you truly are. That confrontation is painful. It feels like abandonment. But Nietzsche insisted it is necessary, because only in that desert of isolation does the true self begin to emerge. And solitude does something else. It sharpens the senses. It gives you a vision that those lost in noise cannot possess. You begin to see mediocrity for what it is, not a system of oppression from above, but a quiet conspiracy from the crowd. Collective mediocrity thrives not by force, but by numbers. It seeks to level down brilliance, to shame independence, to disguise weakness as virtue. And when your presence disturbs that mediocrity, it will attack, not with weapons, but with ridicule, silence, and exclusion. This is why Nietzsche feared not tyrants, but conformity. He saw that the true chains of humanity are woven by consensus, and anyone who dares to break those chains becomes a threat. The moment your mind grows sharper, the moment your presence reveals weakness in others, you will disturb. You will become a mirror that others wish to shatter, simply because it reflects their cowardice. But here lies the paradox. That very solitude, that very opposition, is the proof of your transformation. If you were still ordinary, no one would resist you. If you were still safe, no one would be unsettled. The hostility you face is not a sign of failure. It is the ultimate confirmation that you are becoming unbreakable. To build a mind so strong it terrifies people is not a victory parade. It is a war fought in silence, in nights when no one is watching, in decisions that cut you away from the crowd. And like every war, it comes with losses. You will lose friendships that were built on convenience. You will lose opportunities that demanded your obedience. You will lose the ability to be content with mediocrity. But in exchange, you gain something priceless. You gain possession of yourself. And Nietzsche believed that this possession, the ability to stand firmly within your own being without needing external approval, is the rarest and most powerful achievement a human can attain. When you reach that point, no one controls you. No one dictates your worth. No one can bend you through fear, shame, or manipulation. You are dangerous, not because you harm, but because you cannot be owned. This is what terrifies people. Not violence, not arrogance, but the presence of someone who refuses to submit. Your silence will be louder than their noise. Your absence will shake them more than the presence of many. Because deep down, they know you cannot be pulled back into the mold. But here is the raw truth. If you cannot stand loneliness, you are not ready for freedom. True freedom always arrives with abandonment. Abandonment of false comfort, of fragile illusions, of the emotional crutches society gives you to keep you tame. Nietzsche saw solitude not as a curse, but as a battlefield where the true self emerges. Only in that battlefield does a mind evolve into something indomitable. And yet, this journey does not end with solitude. It evolves into confrontation. The confrontation with mediocrity, with the weight of consensus, with the subtle tyranny of the herd. You will disturb the world simply by existing differently. People will try to shame you, to call you selfish, cold, strange. They will try to pull you back into the safety of the group. But that resistance is proof of your strength. The herd always resists the one who dares to rise. So, the question is not whether this path is difficult. It is whether you are willing to pay the price. Because the price is real. You will bleed. You will stumble. You will lose the comfort of certainty. But what you gain in return is integrity, clarity, and presence. You gain the ability to impose meaning on the world rather than consume it secondhand. You gain the strength to endure storms that destroy others. And most importantly, you gain the power to terrify, not with threats, but with authenticity, not with violence, but with presence. The kind of presence that forces others to confront what they are avoiding. The kind of presence that reveals their chains by showing them what freedom looks like. This is the essence of Nietzsche's challenge. He did not want followers. He wanted creators. He wanted to provoke earthquakes within the soul. He wanted human beings willing to stand alone, to face chaos, to build meaning with their own hands. He wanted people who would stop crawling for approval and instead rise, dangerous in their independence. So here is the invitation. Claim your voice. Speak the truth you've been hiding. Declare the thought you've been too afraid to admit. Step into the silence, into the chaos, into the desert of solitude, and stay. Because if you endure, if you refuse to bend, you will become something rare. A human being whose mind cannot be broken, whose presence cannot be ignored. A being who terrifies the weak, not because you seek to dominate them, but because you remind them of what they could be. And that, in the end, is the ultimate freedom. Not to rule others, but to rule yourself.